special edition of Newcastle County TV called County Newsmakers, which features newsworthy events and legislation in Newcastle County government. I am your host, Wayna Dobson. We have with us today Newcastle County Councilman David Tackett from the Christiana and Bear area of the county and Assistant Land Use Manager Jim Smith. These gentlemen are here today to discuss Councilman Tackett's proposed legislation on vacant properties. Thanks for being here today, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So my first question is for Councilman Tackett. Councilman Tackett, would you be kind and tell us what this legislation is proposed to do?
Well, as part of my job as councilman, I attend a lot of community meetings and I get a lot of feedback from our communities and our community leaders about issues they're having in their communities. And one thing that continuously comes up at all the meetings that I go to are the abandoned and vacant properties within the communities that the residents and the neighbors are trying to deal with. They often create a hindrance to the community to try to maintain. They bring down property values. They become havens for animals, hangouts, people break in them. They just become, draws on the community. So in direct relation to what I've heard from the community is I have proposed some legislation, the first we've seen in Newcastle County thus far, which will actually work with our land use department and our code here with Jim Smith that will create a database which will be able to identify the owners of these properties, which will be able to help us maintain them.
Okay. And Jim, are you getting, or is the county getting calls complaining about these vacant properties as well?
Yes, ever since probably about 2008, code enforcement has received an increasing number of vacant and abandoned properties and the conditions asking for us to step in and help bring them back to acceptable standards for their communities.
Okay. I know as well the county executive, he talks about this often. He expresses his opinions about the number of occasions that Delaware never really climbed up from the recession, which causing landlords not to take care of their homes and things of that sort. So this is going to be proposed to council, Councilman Tackett? Is this something that has to come before council?
It will have to come before council. It's an actual piece of legislation. I introduced it, I believe, on November 10th. Okay. I then tabled it. I didn't bring it right back for the vote because I wanted some time to get it out there to the community and address it and then vent it, and hence we've come up with our first substitute to it, which will be more direct line for some of the comments that we've heard from, feedback. But I think today we've come up with a much better piece of legislation. It won't hurt the little person out there that, maybe has inherited at home or for some reason legally they're not able to unload it. So so long as they're keeping it up, maintaining it, keeping the utilities and all, they should be fine. But it's these ones that are abandoned, they're nobody's taking care of the grass, the windows are getting broken. So this will be back before my committee. I'm co-chair of our land use for Newcastle County. It'll be back before our committee on January 6th. And all intents and purposes, we'll bring this for a vote on January 13th at our regular county council meeting, which starts at 6:30 in Wilmington.
Okay, so would you be kind and explain to the audience what would the process be of someone's vacant property? Who's going to incur the cost?
The cost will be incurred by the property, which then will be transferred back to whoever is responsible or the owner of the property. So what we've done is set up some legislation that says once that property is vacant for 90 days, and many times 90 days is a pretty amount of time, pretty good amount of time for who's ever responsible for that property to have let it go on. So if the grass could start to get high, if there was a water break or something, or water was seeping into the basement, it could get pretty high. So we've given them 90 days to register the property once it's become vacant. After that, they could be imposed a $150 fine for not registering it with a 10-day thereafter incremental addition to that fine, which then would go to land use in our code to exercise.
Okay, so in the meantime, let's say that the homeowner does not take care of these problems, these issues with the vacant homes. Will the county step in and do something to the property so that it's not an eyesore for the community and then bill the homeowner?
Currently, that is a task that is the code enforcement area is charged with. We do react to the complaints from our constituents when they advise us that there are vacant and problem properties in their communities. We will open an investigation. We give notice to the owner of record, as well as we've reached out, if we can't find the owner of record, to banks and mortgage companies to also give them notice in an effort to try to identify who the responsible party would be. If we are unable to find an individual who will step up and take care of the problems, then code enforcement will use money from its problem properties and revolving property maintenance funds to go in and use county vendors, and those vendors will actually clean up the property in the interest of the community and then place a lien against the property to ensure that we get the taxpayers' money back.
Okay, wonderful. It sounds like it's a great piece of legislation. It sounds like it's going to make neighborhoods a better place to live. So I want to thank you so very much for bringing it to the table, Councilman. Is there anything else that I did not touch that you would like to touch on?
The legislation is available on our website. If you want to go to the county website or proposed legislation, it's there and available for the view. Also, if you would go to my webpage on the county, I also have it posted there on my front page. Therefore, we want to make it readily accessible to anybody looking forward to read it. But this legislation will absolutely, we've taken our time with it. We've really worked it and tried to get a very good piece of legislation that will help our communities, our community leaders deal with these type of properties. And many times what we found out is it isn't so much the homeowner who is responsible for, let's say, these vacant or abandoned properties, because with the collapse of the financial institutions, what's happened is many times is a lot of these homeowners have gotten in over their head, and many times they've walked away from the home. So therefore, it kind of reverts more so back to the financial institutions for responsibility, and sometimes they don't realize the person's walked away yet, although they know they're not making payments. But our code department and Jim and his personnel, many times they have to spend an exuberant amount of time researching and trying to figure out who's responsible, working through departments. Many times those corporations are huge, so trying to find the responsible person puts a lot of extra time and effort on them that they have to expend. And what this legislation I'm trying to do with this is to put this back on the responsible owner of that property.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the county exec and all of Newcastle County, we want to thank both of you gentlemen collaborating, because it takes a collaboration to make it happen, and we appreciate you so very much. And thank you so much for joining me on today.
Absolutely. Look forward, please. I hope everybody's going to go and take a time to research the legislation and email us any comments or concerns they have. And I look forward to discussing this on January 6th and bringing it for a vote.
All right.
Thank you, Ina.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining us today here at County Newsmakers. Please keep in tune right here on NCC TV for local news. This is Wayna Dobson for NCC TV. Take care.